Hello my friends, this is Derry Wars chapter 6 and the title of it is Paperwork. It's quite a short chapter and then there's another short chapter to follow. You remember that Sheila had helped Patrick and Wesley sort out some way of dealing with the situation, and now they were waiting for the Derry journalist Gerry to come back to the building so that they could use him as a kind of a negotiator to sort things out. A phone call to the Derry Journal writer soon had Gerry back in the building. He did as Wesley had asked and brought in 4 cans of draft Guinness, and the 4 of them sat around a table. It was Patrick who set the scene in motion. "Right, Gerry. Young Sheila has got a story for you to write." Gerry took out his notebook. Sheila took out the notes that she had compiled. "First of all, Gerry, all 3 of us would like to thank you for coming back with the Guinnesses." They all laughed. Sheila took out the gun. "We need you to write up a story, Gerry. The only weapon here was this toy Luger pistol. Can you take pictures?" Gerry started to speak, but Sheila continued a prepared story. "The only gun, Gerry, no other gun will be found here. And Sheldon's going to look a fool." A smile spread across the reporter's face. He took out his phone and took a few shots of the toy gun on the table. "Oh aye, I'll write that up okay." "Good," Sheila continued. "What we have had here was a prepared operation in showing how reconciliation can be achieved, even in the most difficult stories. Wesley Crockett had only one idea in mind when he came here with his toy gun and his hoax bomb. He wanted to prove that the Sinn Féin councillor here, who admits and who served a prison sentence for shooting Wesley's RUC officer father, has moved on, and that he would have willingly sacrificed his life for a few people of mixed religion in these premises. At no time did Wesley have a real gun or a real bomb. The point having been proved, he felt at liberty to make his peace with Patrick, and they would like you to photograph them shaking hands and sharing a Guinness together before we negotiate our evacuation of this building. Wesley Crockett regrets that his actions have caused a little distress to some residents of the city and some wasted time for the security forces, but at the same time both these men are shocked that after the history of Derry / Londonderry, it's been so easy for one person with a toy gun to bring the city centre to a standstill. Wesley hopes that his peaceful intentions will be considered when the case comes to trial, and so does Patrick O'Hara. At this stage, and before being interviewed by the police, nobody wishes to make a further statement to the press, but we will be happy to talk together on Radio Foil and to the Derry Journal after the police have finished with this matter." The newspaper man chuckled. "What's really gone here? Come on, Sheila." Sheila gave him a very sweetish smile. "Gerry, honestly, that's all you're getting for now, but we sure will appreciate your full cooperation." "Well, what about a personal statement? I mean, you're the only person who was here all the time except," except, he laughed again, "except when you went out to get rid of the real gun I saw earlier." He looked them in the eye one by one. "Boys, you've cooked up a good one between you. But I'll go with it. It's one great story, and that pompous inspector out there is going to be so frustrated." "Well, here's my personal statement then, Gerry." Sheila continued. "Both these men have treated me with respect and dignity, and once I saw the noble intentions held by Wesley Crockett, I felt duty bound to share in working for future peace in this city that we all love so well." Once the 4 of them had drained the cans of Guinness, the Derry Journal man went down the escalators first and out into the darkness, where police personnel and journalists still filled the street. He for once had very little to say, except that he asked to speak to Inspector Sheldon. It was agreed that he could repeat the statement on BBC 10 o'clock news in half an hour, so he went off to find the BBC team. He told Sheldon, though, that the 3 of them would come down in 5 minutes unarmed and in peace, and that they would find the gun, I am told, he said, in the windowsill that's got a view over the diamond. The three of them came down the escalators and out of the doors, and of course Wesley was at once arrested, but Patrick insisted on going with him in the police car. The same young policewoman came to check on Sheila, and she was amazed at the young lady saying she'd just had a wonderful time with two very nice men. She too was asked to make a statement, but at the police barracks they found her to be guarded, evasive and repetitive in her answers. In the meantime, Sheldon was trying to work out why there was just a toy gun in the restaurant, and he knew he'd been completely topped in some way. Topped by an unlikely conspiracy, and he now regretted not having that young waitress followed on a trip out of the restaurant a little earlier. What really happened in this restaurant, he muttered. He doubted if he would ever know. Gerry O'Hara enjoyed his moment of glory on BBC 10 o'clock news, being allowed to read the statement, and without any one comment, I believe the only weapon involved was a toy Luger pistol. Sheila was told she didn't need to be intimidated and that the truth would have Wesley Crockett out of the way for a long time. Her reply was that she'd never felt less intimidated in her life, and that it would be an awful pity if the courts couldn't see that a step for peace had been taken today, and that if these two men could resolve their differences, there was hope for the whole community in Derry. In her only additional statement to the press, she said it was surely more important for the police and courts to lock up the drug dealers than a man who wanted to prove peace could work. When asked about the gun as she left the police barracks, she said, "I'm a waitress. I guess the cops would know more about guns than I would, but what I saw as I left the restaurant was just that toy gun." As her cousin Jen enjoyed a pizza for her supper, she was amazed that her cousin was now on BBC News, and referring to the gun she persuaded Jen to bring to her. She knew though that her cousin was as sound as they come, and remembering the vow they'd made while in their early teens, that though divided by religion they would always seek peace, she knew that she would say nothing, not to a soul. A middle-aged Jehovah's Witness in his apartment heard the news too, and thought it looked as if something good had happened, and he didn't really need to tell anybody else about the gun that had vanished over the side of the Peace Bridge. Wesley was of course kept in custody, and the police would oppose bail in the morning, but when a member of the Protestant community was being represented in court by a well-known Republican lawyer, the case was going to be hard enough. "Darn it, Maggie," Sheldon spluttered over his bedtime hot chocolate to his wife. "This case is hardly going to be worth all the paperwork." So what actually happens when it comes to court? The final short episode will give the answer. Hope you've enjoyed the story so far. Thanks for listening. Love to one and all. I just love the way this story revolves around not just the walls of Derry, but the Peace Bridge as well. Thanks very much for listening. Bye bye my friends. Love and peace to you. Bye bye.